Today I thought I would talk about what it was like to work at a hog farm or factory farm or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to try not to get emotionally triggered because I used to have breakdowns and stuff about the place when I worked there. I used to wake up crying in the middle of the night, like I was already crying and woke up crying. I used to tremble and have anxiety attacks at work and at home from it. I used to dread it. But yeah. You see these videos that show people treating the animals very poorly, and I'm not going to sit here and say that it never happens. It did not happen a lot at my farm. It was actually, you were not supposed to treat animals carelessly. You were supposed to give them respect. You were supposed to treat them with dignity, because just because they're going to be turned into meat does not mean that they deserve to be disrespected. Because you're dealing with very large animals, and if you treat them poorly, they can retaliate, and it can be dangerous. And if they choose to take the anger out on someone else besides you, then that's definitely dangerous. And some animals, some of them come in there crazy. I know that sounds dumb or ridiculous or like a lie, but most of the sows you work with are really calm, and they don't necessarily want to be moms, but they'll have the babies, they'll lay there, they'll enjoy the food that they're getting, they'll enjoy, the sleep, the naps, they'll enjoy the little babies curled up to them, but you'll have ones that straight up, no, I don't want this fucking baby. And after it comes out, they'll immediately try and kill it. They'll try and eat it. And I don't know if I'm allowed to be talking about this. I don't work there anymore, so I don't know if I can get anyone in trouble. So I'm not going to say any names or anything. I'm just going to talk about... and I'm not going to... Well, I'm going to talk about what I saw happen and why I'm glad I don't work there anymore, but I'm not going to give away the name or location of the farm. I'm not going to talk about who I worked with. I'm not going to talk about my supervisor. I'm not going to talk about anything specific. But I will say that people say dreams aren't predictions. People say that predicting stuff through dreams is, bullshit. And I don't believe in psychics myself. But like, I don't know, 3 years before I got a job there, I had a dream of one of the rooms. I didn't know what it was at the time, and someone saying the name of a person who worked there, and I had never known anyone by that name before I worked there. And when I started working there, I didn't realize it, and I was standing in one of the rooms one day, and it hit me. I dreamt about working there. Now, when I sit there and look at what I went through at that job, and the fact that I don't have that job anymore, and the fact that a lot of stuff was, happening, when I look back at that part of my life, it was all a blur. It was all a fucking blur. So I don't know why I would have a dream about something that seems so insignificant now. Do I think that I changed and learned things about myself there? Yes. But I don't know why I would have had a dream about it. My life back then seems like a blur because, again, I can't fucking talk. You can sit there and fast forward that and slow it down and go back and forth with that, by the way, if you want to. But my life seems like a blur when I look back at that point in time, even though that was like, I got fired in June of 2015. I may tell you why I got fired. I'm not sure if I want to divulge that information because it would sound bad, and I'm not looking to get the company in trouble. I would not necessarily work there ever again, but I've been away from that job and that company for so long that me trying to get them in trouble for anything would be pointless and stupid. But I started August 25th, 2014. The summers were okay. You have to shower in and shower out. You have to wear their clothes. You have to bring your own underwear and your own bras. And you have to it's just biohazardous, safety stuff. And yet, on the other hand, people would take food into the barn. They're not supposed to chew tobacco, but they would chew tobacco. They're not supposed to smoke cigarettes, but if you pull in front of that farm, there are cigarette butts riddled all over the freaking ground outside in front of the farm. So I don't know how no one got in trouble for that. That's another thing I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be sitting there saying, you're not supposed to do this, but this happened, and I don't know how no one got in trouble for it, because there were times where I would blatantly see stuff being done, and the person that was the manager or the supervisor or whatever was also there, and either they completely disregarded it and didn't notice, but picked up on everything I was doing fucking wrong, or they participated in it and didn't fucking care, but they picked on everything I was doing wrong. I told them I had never had a real job before. I had never had a schedule and a job, like, anything before. And yet, they gave me, in my opinion, one of the most difficult jobs there. Like, and what was really aggravating is that everybody else seemed to think it was easy when I would sit there and, like, need help all the time, or complain, or, like, make mistakes. Everyone else would be like, well, it's easy, I don't get why you make mistakes. Maybe I'm just not meant to do that kind of work. Maybe I'm not as good at multitasking, or doing 15 things at once as everybody fucking else is. I don't know. I was a day one. What a day one does is takes care of the piglets the day that they're born. Watches the sows when they're approaching, and checks on the sows while they're giving birth, and to see if they've started yet. I had to check the sows that were giving birth and which ones weren't. I had to look at the due dates. I had to give shots. I had to sleeve sows and pull piglets out of them when they weren't doing it themselves. I had to give them a shot after that. I had to give them a shot to help promote them, to help them push. There was like 4 different shots that I was allowed to give. Sometimes they would have to use something called Ludolase to induce sows, because their due date had passed, and they would let the due date go by like, I'm not sure how many days, but like 2 or 3 before they would do that, just to make sure that they were completely, that the piglets were completely developed, they made sure it was, decent for them to come out. I was allowed to give Ludolase, I was allowed to give oxytocin, I was allowed to give LA, I was allowed to give ACE, and I was allowed to give Pen. So there's 5 types of shots I was allowed to give. Another thing is, when you give a sow a shot, you have to use a very big needle. Like a 12 gauge needle. I put it this way, a 16 gauge is what goes through your ear when they pierce your ear. A 14 gauge would be a little bigger than that, and a 12 gauge or 10 gauge is about the size they use for the needles when they give them shots. There are short needles and there are long needles, and they use smaller needles for the piglets to get shots, but I was never, I don't remember ever having to give a piglet a shot. I don't know if I ever had to or not. Sows usually don't bleed when you give them shots. Some of them do, some of them don't. But any shots that we gave them were to help them, or keep them safe. Like after you would sleeve them, which you're supposed to wear, basically a rubber glove that comes up to here. And that's what you're supposed to wear when you sleeve, but I saw almost every other person that sleeves sows doing it without a fucking sleeve on. 1, that's biohazardous, because you're getting covered in sow blood. It's dangerous for you, it's dangerous for her, and it's just not clean. You're supposed to put one of those gloves on, and you're supposed to put lube on. Now, I would wear rubber gloves all the time anyways, because I was touching bloody piglets all fucking day long. I had to dry them off with sawdust. It was more like wood shavings instead of sawdust, so. Not only did I have to help pull the piglets out, give the sows meds to help them have their babies, dry off the piglets when they came out all bloody, I had to split suckle them, which is when they take larger ones out and leave the smaller ones in so they can get the, I'm going to forget the name of what it is. And then I'm going to remember 3 hours from now. Colostrum. There's colostrum in sow milk, which helps them get, big and strong and boost their immune system. And the little ones need it more than the big ones. So they would take the big ones out and just let the little ones soak up the colostrum. And you had to put them back after like an hour. Now, that does not sound like a lot of work. And here's where it gets complicated. You have to watch 4 rooms at a time, at least. Sometimes it's 8, depending on what time of the week it is, what time of the, like how many sows are going. If the ones in these 4 rooms are finished, if the ones in these 4 rooms are starting before they're supposed to. 4 rooms, each room can hold 45 to 60 sows. These sows are very large, so they can have 10 to 20 or more than 20 piglets. The ranges usually went from 12 to 18 to 20 piglets. Sometimes you would have one that only had 1 piglet. Sometimes you would have one that had 5. That was usually not the case. And if you calculate how many sows that is, and the fact that I was meant to walk around all those rooms and check all of them and be able to sleeve them all in a very short amount of time, all by myself. Not only that, while I was drying them all off when I pulled them out, while I was split suckling them, while I was making sure the sows were not laying on them, while I was removing dead piglets that had been laid on, while I was picking up afterbirth, while I was changing out totes full of sawdust and things like that, and at the end of the day I would have to wash all the totes, not always by myself, and I didn't always have to do everything by myself, but people would say, oh, just ask for help, but then you would ask them for help, and they would sit there and give you the dirty looks. They would come help you, but they would give you the dirty looks, and they would act like, oh, well, I basically felt like everyone else could do my job better than me, and even talking about it right now is making me want to just, like, I don't want to say it's triggering me, but it's bringing back the negative feelings I used to feel. And I told myself before I ever got another job that I did not want to go through that again. Like, I don't want to feel that way. I got write-ups and stuff like that, and sat there and had anxiety attacks over if I was going to get fired or not. Someone pulled in outside. I'm waiting to see if they're here or if they're over there. That's our wood stove. Imagine hearing that at 2 a.m. whenever you're 12 years old, sitting in your bedroom. And you forget that it's the wood stove. Yeah. I should put wood in that. I don't want to. But anyways, and this is probably going to get a little emotional. I'm waiting to hear if somebody walks up on the porch. Because I don't want to tell this next part if somebody walks up on the porch, because I'm going to cry. I feel like I'm going to cry if I talk about it. There were points in time where there was 2 different managers. There was a male manager and there was a female manager. When the male manager was there, he made little mistakes too, which is actually why he got fired, because there was a point where the fuel for the heating ran out, and that's very important because the sows had no heat. I don't know if any died, but they didn't have any heat. I was not working there. I was not there when that happened. Like, they had certain crews that worked weekends, and my crew was not working that weekend. When they showered in, they had to shower in cold water. They had to shower out with cold water. They had to do everything that they could to keep everything safe, but when you have no fuel, you can't really do much. And it was winter. It was cold. It was not a warm time of the year. But that's not what I was going to get emotional about. they would call me into the office and tell me that I was doing very poorly. And every time I thought they were going to tell me I was fired. I was trying my best, but it was not a job that I was going to succeed at. And I don't like doubting myself, but it felt like I was at this pit and just like trying to claw out, but the dirt kept falling. I could never do it as well as this person or that person. They're like, oh, well, this person does your job once in a while, and they do it all by themselves, and they never have a problem. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I didn't get smart with anybody. I didn't actually say that, but looking back, I'm like, I don't know what, because it just made me feel like a failure. Like, like it made me feel so like inadequate. There was one point where they sat me down in the office and were talking to me, and then right after, I was trembling so bad. I was terrified. I was having like severe anxiety. I don't know if you consider it a panic attack. I was trying to hold my composure, and that's why I was trembling, because I did not want to cry. I walked into one of the rooms, and I broke down for like a handful of time, like 30 seconds, and then I stopped everything and had to like regain my composure and just keep doing my job. It didn't seem like anybody else was under the same amount of stress I was. It seemed like everybody else thought that my job was easy. And I would sit there and wonder, well, then why don't they get somebody who's better at it to do it than me? I would sit there and wonder, why don't they? And then there would be people after the fact, after I got fired, that said, well, why didn't you tell them you didn't want to do it? Or why didn't you tell them that, oh, well, I can do something else? Because the way I saw it was, if I would have went in there and been like, you know what, I don't think I can do this, can you put me on something else? To me, that felt like I was telling my boss what to do. And I didn't want to be disrespectful. I remember at one point there was a meeting, and they were talking about how the other farms do better than us, and blah, blah, blah. They're like, oh, well, what's one thing that they might do differently than us? Or they might have that we don't, or they don't have that we do. I was like, well, they don't have me working for them. And my lead at the time was just like, come on, Jess, that's not what I meant. And I'm thinking, you weren't thinking it, but you're not going to sit there and disagree with me. And then there was another time where I'm trying to remember which manager it was, because the male manager called me in a few times for a few different things. The female manager called me in like once or twice, but I don't think that she liked me. I don't know. But I don't think she liked me from the get-go. I don't know why. But I can feel when people don't like me. I don't care about being liked, but I hated the fact that it felt like I was trying really hard and I was under a lot of stress and it was getting me nowhere. She called me in and suggested that someone else be day one, which I was fine with. And they switched me to something else. And I broke down. Because A, I thought I was going to get fired that day. And B, I felt bad. Like I was letting everyone down. But I also felt like maybe I'll do better if they put me on something that's not so like... Because it felt like sometimes sows have stillborn piglets, and sometimes you can't help it, but it felt like every time there was a stillborn or there was something like that, it was my fault directly. I'm sorry for crying. It's just bringing up a lot of, like, anxiety from the past. I'm fine now, but it hurts a lot. And when I got fired, it was for... There was a part of my job that no matter where you work in the barn, no matter if you're breeding, farrowing, day one or not, you have to wash. And this was after it was obviously after I got taken off of day one. But you had to wash rooms, and they washed 2 rooms a day. It took them 2 days to wash 4 rooms because these rooms were massive, by the way. It takes 4 people to wash 2 rooms. And you wash 1 room first, and there's 2 people on each side of the room. You get each sow's in its individual crate, so you each get like 15 crates. Because there's 30 crates on each side. And for everything to work out, you have to have good water pressure in your power washer, and I came in that day, and everything kept going wrong. I wasn't going to hurt anyone, I wasn't going to hurt myself, it's just everything kept going wrong. And I actually made the comment that if I hadn't come in that day, I should have just stayed home that day, during the day. Because I knew it was going to be a shitty day, no matter if I would have had to wash or not. I was getting to the point where washing, whatever, I'm going to have to do it, because everyone has to do it. But that day, everything was going wrong. Like, the pumps that you hook the power washer hose to are on the ceiling. None of the hoses want to hook up. Then, when I get a gun, the gun doesn't work. Then I get another gun, it breaks. I smacked the gun off the crate. I did. But you have to understand these power washing guns. Most of them have already been broken by everyone else. Or they don't work at all. Or they're faulty. I was just angry. I wasn't going to hurt anyone. I was in a room. When I hit the, first of all, there's a plastic wall. Like, most of the walls in the crates are plastic, and then there's this metal part inside that the sows are in. It holds them in place. There's a reason for that, because if they turn around, they'll try and climb out of the crate, and they suffocate and die very easily if they get, like, the crate right in here. And they're just, I don't know if it has to do with their weight, or what. But anyways, I was washing and everything kept going wrong, and I don't remember all of it. I do remember hitting my head off the wall 3 times. Let me explain why this is not going to hurt anybody. You have a bump cap on, which is not a hard hat, but it's a plastic cap it looks very similar to a hard hat, but it's not. It's not as thick as a hard hat. I'm just assuming that. Sorry, but my nose is running. And you wear that all the time. You're supposed to. So I had that on. The walls are wood covered in plastic. I'm assuming there might be some kind of insulation in there, but I'm pretty sure it's just wood with plastic over it. So there's not cement, there's not anything really, really tough behind there. And mind you, I know it wasn't going to hurt me because I used to hit my head off the wall in elementary school. I was a strange kid. That's why I still attest to this day that I have ADHD, ADD, or autism, or something like that, because I used to behave very oddly. But I was never diagnosed with anything, and I have depression and anxiety and stuff right now that I deal with on my own. But basically, they said that I was violent, and I was behaving very angrily, but it wasn't towards anyone. I was just, like, frustrated about everything. And I behaved poorly, and I'll admit that I did the wrong things. But I'm glad I don't work there anymore, because I probably would have had a heart attack. There were times where I was at my now ex, then he was my boyfriend. I was at his house once, and I woke up crying. Now, he was asleep. I was just then, I was like, what the fuck? Like, I think I was having a dream about the place, and about getting fired. It was before I got fired. It was way before this ever happened, like, way before I ever got, it was like a couple months before this. But I was having constant anxiety that I was going to get fired. I don't want to feel that way. It's why when I make little mistakes at the job I have now, I work at a store. It's not nearly as, like, tense and stressful, but it's why when I make little mistakes, I beat myself up so horribly for it, because I don't want that to turn into that again. And I'm sorry for crying in this video. I'm sorry for getting all... I'm sorry if my sniffling noises grossed you out in any way, but I just felt the need to talk about this, because some of you may not know I worked at a hog farm. I'm not going to get into the details of... Here's what happened. I'm just going to talk about it. When you get fired, you have the option to have unemployment. I was denied unemployment because I was fired for violation of company policy. I appealed it just to see if I could actually get it. Even though, looking back, I know that what I did was a violation of company policy. Whether I was intending on hurting anybody, which I absolutely was fucking not, or not, I behaved poorly, I was angry, and I was acting out. And people, there was a point in time where one of my coworkers at the hearing sat and blatantly lied to the guy that was... They have somebody sit there and hear each side. And it was me versus 3 other people. 1, that seems really unfair. 2 of the people weren't actually there. They were in the office or in different parts of the barn and did not see what happened and what went on. The one that was there lied. He blatantly fucking lied. He said that he told me to calm down, to please stop. He did not. There was a point where I said, and this was before... This is when I could tell things were going to be going wrong, and I hadn't done anything violent yet, I hadn't acted out yet. There was another coworker that actually works in breeding that told me when I said I shouldn't have come in today. He said, well, you don't have to talk like that, like, he didn't say it in a mean way, he wasn't being rude, he was just like, oh, don't say things like that. That was the only person that even said anything remotely like that to me that day. The person that said that they told me to stop, especially since I only hit my head off the wall 3 times. I only had time to go 1, 2, 3. For him to think that he told me to stop, or say that he told me to stop, is a blatant lie. He didn't have time to. I was not going to hurt anybody. I was not going to... And I understand why they let me go. And I'm not mad about it, because I'm glad I don't work there anymore. Because if I still worked there, I would be fucking insane. I would be under so much stress. I would have probably had a fucking heart attack by now. Just no. I probably still wouldn't have my license because I wouldn't have had time to get them. And if I had time, I wouldn't have had energy. I made more money, but it was so bad for my mental state. The way it makes me feel to talk about it is proof of that. So yeah, I hope that you found this video to be interesting. If you like these kind of videos where I sit and talk about things in my life, leave a like on this video, leave a comment saying what you liked about it. I do want to do a mukbang, but I don't know what of yet. I'm trying to spread my videos out more because I love doing mukbangs. I love doing videos where I sit and talk to you guys, but doing them day after day after day is not possible all the time, and sometimes I get burnt out. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, well, it's great all the time, I just forget. No, I can't always think of things to mukbang. And I'm not always in an area where I have the quiet and the ability to talk to the camera like I am right now. A lot of the times when I eat, there's other people around. Whether they're in a different room or not, I still don't feel comfortable eating around them because it feels like they're gonna be like, hey, what are you doing? And I can't have that on camera. I can't, guys. You've seen me. You've seen the expressions I make when my dad's like, what are you doing? I just don't. And I don't like doing it because I feel like I'm imposing on people. Usually the people are in the other room, but still, that's whenever you see a mukbang that's really quiet and you hear like a TV in the background, that's when I've chosen to do them. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it uploads completely when I upload it. So I will see you in the future, and I hope this wasn't too, like, draining. I hope it didn't make you have any kind of, like, emotional response, because I don't want to make other people cry, because I got emotional. I will be fine. I'm not still emotional, I just can't breathe out of this nostril right now, so it sounds like I'm still crying and I'm dying inside of me. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the future. Don't forget to check out the links to my mukbang playlist, my Someone Has to Say playlist, my Patreon, and all the information about my social media. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe. Keep being awesome, and I will see you in the future.